Hello and welcome. My name is Savannah. I am so happy that you have joined me for class today. I will be guiding you through a yoga practice focused on the hips. Now this class will be a really well-rounded hip class. We will work on some different hip mobility and strength exercises that will feel really good. Everything that we are doing in this class is going to be really beneficial for our hip joints. It's going to help to open up the hips through an active range. And it is also going to help build stability and strength within the hip joint. You will need 2 yoga blocks for this practice. If you don't have blocks, you can use some books to substitute. And then you will also want to grab a blanket. We will just be using that for one little part of class. So once you have your props, once you're ready to go, you can meet me by lying down on your mat and bringing one of your blocks or your books with you down on your back. Placing your prop just towards your head at the top of your mat, next to your mat. Let's bring the feet out to the edges of the mat. The knees will be bent, and just bring the knees in to touch one another. Allow yourself to settle into this space here on your mat. Allow your breath to flow in and out. I invite you to notice the length of each inhale and each exhale. Notice also the depth of your breath. So does your breath feel shallow or deep? Does your breath feel slow or quick? Which part of your breath is the easiest for you to feel and connect in with? Notice how you are feeling right here and right now. How is your physical body feeling? Take note of any areas of tension, stiffness, any places that feel sore. What else can you notice about your physical body? And how are your hips feeling today? Take a moment now to bring to mind a few words that identify how you would like to feel after class. In other words, what are you hoping to get out of this practice here on your mat? What is your intention? Once you have selected your words that describe how you would like to feel after class, repeat them to yourself a few times. And then once you are ready, begin to take your knees from side to side, finding a windshield wipe-like motion. The feet are at the edges of the mat, legs are bent, and we're just taking the legs from side to side. Good. From here, bring your feet closer together. Legs are still bent. Arms are just down alongside the body. Ground down into your feet to lift your hips up towards the sky. Here in your bridge pose, can you spread your toes farther apart? Can you find a little bit more strength in the backs of your legs, your hamstrings, as well as your glutes? Good. We're going to lower down. Can you lower down super slowly and with a lot of control? Taking your time to lower all the way down to the ground. From here, we're going to bring our feet out to the edges of the mat once again. So the feet are nice and wide, legs are bent. Ground your feet down into the mat to lift your hips up once again. Engage your hamstrings and your glutes. We're going to lower the hips down just to tap the mat and then right away lift them up. Lower them down and lift them up. We'll do a few more like this. Finding strength in the lower body, especially the backs of the thighs, the hamstrings, and the backs of the hips. Good. One last one right here. Lower down. Bring your feet all the way together next to one another. All 10 of your toes are facing the front of your mat. Ground down into both of your feet and all 10 of your toes to lift your hips up. Lower the hips down to tap the mat. Lift your hips up and lower them down. 3 more like this. Last 2 and last 1. Lift and lower. Excellent. Bring your feet to the edges of your mat. Legs are still bent, and just take your knees from side to side, finding that windshield wipe motion. We're now going to bring our legs into a reverse tabletop position, and we'll grab our prop, so you can use your block or your book if you don't have a block. Place it in between your thighs. So allow your shins here to be parallel to the ground to start off with. And place your block towards your knees, in between your thighs. So from here, we're going to move into internal rotation. Continue to squeeze in on that block, hugging it in. We'll bring the feet out, away from one another, and then back into that starting position. So the shins are parallel to one another, and then bring the feet out away from one another, internal rotation. Shins are parallel in our starting position, and then bring your feet out to either side. Good, continue like this. And as we do this internal rotation, make sure you're squeezing in on that prop. Last one here. Place your block off to the side. Moving into external rotation now. So bringing your feet together, knees out wide, returning to your starting position, reverse tabletop, and then feet together, knees out wide. Good. Shins parallel to one another. Feet together, knees out wide. A few more like this. Good. We're going to do each one, internal and external rotation, one more round. So placing the block in between your thighs and towards your knees. So starting with our shins parallel to one another, we're going to bring now the feet out to the sides, internal rotation for the hips, and then return to your starting position. Shins are parallel, feet out to the sides, and then back in towards one another. Out and in, feet apart, and then in together. Two more. Good, last one right here. Center, release your block off to the side of your mat. Bring your feet towards one another, knees out apart. Return to your starting position. Shins are parallel. Feet together, knees apart. And we'll do this a few more times. Work at your own pace. Notice how this movement feels for your hips today. Last one. Good. From here, just hug your knees into your chest. Rock from side to side. And as you do this, notice how your lower back feels. We're going to make our way on up into a seated position. So you can roll all the way up, or if you would rather, you can roll over onto one side and then press yourself up, whatever feels good for you. We're going to move into a reverse tabletop. So the legs will be bent in front of us, hands will plant down on the mat behind us. Spread your fingers nice and far apart. Ground down into your feet. And can you also spread your toes farther apart on your mats? Grounding down through your hands and your feet, we're going to lift the hips up. We'll stay here for a couple of breaths. We'll lower down and then we'll repeat. Can you lift your hips up a little bit higher, engaging through the hamstrings and the backs of your hips? Good, lower down. Bring your hands onto your knees or onto your legs. Just give yourself a bit of a hug. You can round your spine. You can bring your chin towards your chest if you like. Excellent, and we'll do that once again. Hands come behind us on the mat. Fingers spread far apart. Spread your toes far apart as well. Ground down into your hands and your feet to lift yourself up. You can tilt your head back a little bit if that feels okay for your neck. Arms are straight here, so we're also using some strength in our shoulders, our upper body. Think about pushing the ground away from you. Good, lower all the way down. From here, we're going to straighten the right leg. And the left leg will be bent, so you can interlace your fingers around the left leg. So the left foot is towards the left hip. From here, we're just going to lift and lower the right leg. So as you do this, try to sit up nice and tall, lifting your head up towards the sky, really engaging through the right quadriceps, as well as the hip flexors, the top of the thigh. We'll do two more. Good. Straight over to the other side now. So we'll extend the left leg long. We'll bend the right leg. So the foot is in towards the hip. Interlace your fingers around the right leg. When you're ready, starting with a nice tall spine, we can lift and lower the left leg. We'll do just a couple more, continuing to lift the head up, finding length through the spine. Last one here. Good. We're now going to extend both legs long. We're going to place the block on the lowest height to the right side of our mat. The legs are together. You can have your hands behind you for a bit more support and assistance for this next movement. For more of a challenge, you can place your hands together at heart center. So the left leg is going to stay down on the mat just as it is, and we're going to move the right leg. We're going to lift the right leg up, take it over the block, bring it down to the ground, to the right side of the block, lift the leg back up, bring it next to the left leg, set it down. Continue like this. Lift the leg up, bring it to the right side, lower it down to the ground. Lift it up, bring it towards the left leg, lower it down. We'll do this just a couple more times. Again, option to do this with your hands at heart center or hands behind you with tented fingers. Excellent. One more time, out to the side, back into center, and we'll switch and we'll do that on the other side. So bringing the block now towards the left side of your mat. Again, doing this with a nice tall spine. So lifting your head up towards the sky. Hands can be behind you or at heart center. If your hands are behind you, make sure you're on tented fingertips. So you're not leaning back like this. Your shoulders are over the hips. Excellent. Lifting the left leg up, taking it over the block to the left side, setting it down, lifting it up again, placing it down on the ground next to the right foot, lifting it up. So using the strength of the left quadriceps, the front of the thigh, as well as really strengthening and engaging the hip flexors on that left thigh. So the very top of the thigh. Good, let's do two more. Last one right here. Good, place your block off to the side. We're now going to come into a tabletop position, hands and knees. Shoulders over top of the wrists, hips over top of the knees. Great, let's just begin to bring the hips from side to side. So a lateral movement, bringing them towards the right and the left, right and the left. This movement might be small, it might be big. Find a range of movement that works for you. Good. Find stillness. We're now going to bring our hands further out in front of us towards the top of the mat. Tuck your toes under, lift your hips up into downward facing dog. Now here in our downward facing dog, the legs can be bent and the heels do not need to be reaching the mat. So find a downward facing dog that feels good for your hips and your knees and your hamstrings. Send your chest a little bit further back towards your legs. Take a full breath here. We're now going to step our feet up to the top of the mat. Bring your hands to heart center, ground down through your feet. Come to a halfway lift. So your spine or your back is parallel to the ground. And here, imagine that I'm placing a cup of coffee or tea on your back. And you're staying so strong and steady and stable that you're not allowing the cup of coffee or tea to tip over and spill on your mat. Good, one more breath right here, grounding down through your feet. Reaching the heart forward. Come all the way up with a nice tall spine. Reach your arms up. Exhale, hands at heart center, lower down halfway, send the hips back. Reach your heart forward. Inhale, come all the way up, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands at heart, halfway lift. As you breathe in, ground down through your feet, reach your arms up. Exhale, hands at heart, halfway lift. Hips back, heart forward. As you take your next breath in, come all the way up. Exhale once again, hands at heart center. Send your hips back, reach your heart forward. Find a nice long spine. Good, bring your hands down onto your mat. Step back into your downward facing dog. Find any movement here that feels good for you. Shifting the hips from side to side, maybe bending into one leg and then the other. Good. We're now going to step the right foot to the top of the mat and to the right side of the mat. So it will be to the right side of our hands. Hands will be to the inside of the right foot. And then from here, just a few times, shift your weight forward and back. 2 more like that. Shifting forward and back. Good. From here, we're going to step the left foot to the left side of the mat. Coming into a wide-legged squat. So the feet are at the edges of the mat. Hands at heart center. Sit your hips low. Lift your chest up. Lift your head up as well, finding this length in your spine. Good. Lower your hands down to your mat. Step the left foot back. Shift forward and back. Good. Step your right foot back. Lower down to your belly. Untuck your toes. We're going to bring one hand over top of the other. Rest your forehead on your hands. Once you are ready, we're going to lift and lower the right leg 3 times, engaging through the entire back side of the right leg. So the calf muscles, the back of the lower leg, also the back of the upper leg. Good. Set the leg down. We'll do that on the second side. So the left leg will lift and lower, engaging through the calf, the hamstrings, and also the back of the hip. Lower that leg down. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Press up into tabletop. Bring your hands farther out in front of you. Tuck your toes under. And lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Right away, this time we'll now step the left foot to the left side of the mat, outside of our hands. 3 times we are going to shift forward and back. Good. 1 more like this. We're now stepping the right foot to the right side of the mat, outside the hands. So we're in a wide-legged squat. Hands at heart center. Sit your hips low. Lift your chest and your head up. Good. Bring your hands down to your mat. Step your right foot back. Back of the mat, lizard lunge. Shift forward and back. Step your left foot back, plank pose. Lower down to the ground. Untuck your toes. Bring one hand over top of the other. Rest your forehead on your hands. From here, 3 times, we're going to lift and lower the right leg, engaging through the entire back side of the leg. Moving on to the second side. Good. Hands under the shoulders. Press up into tabletop. And then downward facing dog as you're ready. Bring your right foot to the right side of your mat, outside your hands. Shift forward and back just 1 time. Then step your left foot up, coming into your squat. Hands at heart center. Sit your hips low. Hands come down to the ground. Step your left foot back. Shift forward and back just 1 time. Step back into plank. Lower down to your belly. Bring your hands over top of one another, forehead on your stacked hands. Untuck your toes. Lift and lower your right leg about 3 times. Moving on to the second side once you're ready. Good. Hands under shoulders. Both legs are down on the mat. Press up into tabletop or move right into plank and then downward facing dog. Good. So we're doing that one more time here, just on the other side. Left foot steps outside of the hands, left side of the mat. One time, shift your weight forward and back. Now the right foot will step up to the right side of the mat. Hands at heart center, sit your hips low, lift your chest up. Good, lower your hands down. Step the right foot far back behind you, shift your weight forward and back. Step your left foot back to plank. Lower all the way down to your belly. Untuck your toes. Bring one hand over top of the other. Rest your forehead on your hands. From here, lifting and lowering each leg just about 3 times. Moving on to the left side when you're ready. Excellent. Hands come underneath the shoulders. And this time, press into a tabletop and stay right there. Shoulders are over top of the wrists, hips over top of the knees. Take a moment here to ground down into your hands and your knees, pushing the floor away from you. We're now going to step the right foot through in between the hands. Bring your hands together at heart center. Come up into a 90-90 lunge. So making sure that your legs are at about 90-degree angles. So this right foot isn't too far forward like so. It's closer towards the left knee. Good. From here, we're going to tuck the left toes under. We're coming to stand on this right leg. And we'll bring the left knee in towards the chest. Keeping the hands at heart center this entire time if you can. So stepping up onto the right leg, left knee comes into the chest. And then we're simply making our way back into our low lunge. So stepping back, lowering the left knee down. We're continuing like this for several rounds. Left toes are tucked under. Lift up the left knee. Come to stand on your right leg, left knee lifts in towards your chest. Step it back, lower the left knee down. Returning to your 90-90 lunge. So always making sure that your left knee isn't too far back like so. Your right foot and your left knee are relatively close together. Coming to stand once again, knee into the chest. Returning to that low lunge. Doing this a couple more times. Good, one more here. We're going to stay with the knee in towards the chest. Take one more breath. Lower the left foot down next to the right. As you breathe in, sweep your arms up. As you breathe out, bring your hands down through heart center. Find a forward fold. Your legs can be as bent as you would like them to be. Allow your upper body and your head to become a little bit heavier. Plant your hands down onto the mat and just find a tabletop position, hands and knees. Shoulders over top of the wrists, hips over the knees, fingers spread far apart. Can you push the ground away from you with your hands and your knees? Feeling a little bit more grounded and centered, steady and strong. Let's now step the left foot through in between the hands, starting in this 90-90 lunge. So the left foot isn't too far forward like this. This might be how you normally do your lunge. Instead, today we're going to bring it closer towards the right or the back knee. So they're relatively close together. Hands at heart center. Tuck your right toes under. Ground down into this left leg. Come to stand on the left leg. Right knee comes in towards your chest. Continuing like this. Come into your low lunge. Making sure that the right foot and the left knee are somewhat close together. Grounding down into your left foot. Coming to stand once again. Right knee in towards the chest. Step it back. Continuing like this for several more times. Finding your balance. So picking a spot out in front of you to focus on. This is called your dristi, and it will help you with your balance. We'll do 2 more. Last one here. We're going to hold the knee up and stay for full breath. Plant your foot down next to your left. As you breathe in, reach your arms up overhead. Exhale, hands come down to the mat. Find your forward fold. You can sway from side to side if you like. As you breathe in, bring your hands up onto your shins, halfway lift. As you breathe out, hands plant down to the mat. Step back into tabletop. And we're going to do that same sequence, but we'll add on. So stepping the right foot through, starting just the same. Hands at heart center, tuck your left toes under. We're coming to stand on this right leg. Left knee towards the chest. And then from here, we're bringing the left ankle onto the right thigh. You can stay here, or you can start to lower your hips down. Let's bring the knee in towards the chest. And then find your way into your low lunge once again. 90-90. So again, the right foot and the left knee are pretty close together. It's not a big stance like this. From here, we're just continuing with that sequence. So stepping onto the right leg, left toes are tucked under, left knee towards the chest. Standing pigeon, so the ankle comes over the right thigh. You can stay lifted, or you can sit your hips towards the ground. Bring your left knee in towards your chest, straightening the right leg. Step it back, low lunge, lowering the left knee down. 2 more times, just like this. Allow your breath to flow. Notice if you're holding your breath here at any point. If you are, you can take a break. You might want to try to slow this movement down. Good. So finishing here in our low lunge, hands at heart center. Let's take a full breath in and a full breath out. Bring your hands down now to your mat. Step the right foot back, tabletop. Right away, doing the left side. Left foot will step forward. 90-90 position. Low lunge, hands at heart center. Tuck your right toes, your back toes under. Come to stand onto the left leg. Right knee towards your chest. Bring the right ankle onto the left thigh. Stay lifted. Or you can lower your hips down, bending into the left leg. Bring your right knee in towards the chest, straightening your left leg. And then make your way into your low lunge. We're going to do this 3 more times. Go at your own pace. Knee towards the chest, and then moving into standing pigeon. Bringing the knee into the chest once again before you step it back into your low lunge. 2 more times. Last one right here. Knee to the chest, and then step the foot back. low lunge. Take a full breath here in your low lunge. Great work. Bring your hands down. Find your tabletop. We're now going to use both blocks for our next posture. Place the blocks towards the middle of your mat. We're turning to face the long edge of the mat. So let's step the left foot forward. In between the hands, tuck the right toes under, lift up the knee, and then rotate so you're facing the long edge of your mat. Your feet are parallel to the short edges of your mat. Now we can use our blocks on whatever height works for you. Lengthen through your spine, so think about sending your hips back and reaching your heart forward. Good. Take a few more breaths right here, and then we'll add in some movement. So you can leave your blocks or your prop just as they are, or you can change the height and bring your blocks to the medium position. We're going to walk our blocks or our props over towards the left leg or the back of the mat, bending into the left leg, finding a bit of a side lunge here. Come through center, straightening out the left leg, bending into the right leg, coming towards the front of your mat, finding a side lunge here on the right side, continuing to move like this from side to side. Using your blocks or whatever props you have with you today for some support and assistance. The next time that you're towards the back of your mat or towards the left leg, we're going to stay there for a couple of breaths. Ground down into both of your feet, including all 10 of your toes. Reach your heart forward, send your hips a little further back. Good, find center. Take a full breath in center, in and out through the nose or the mouth. And then as you're ready, we're going to make our way towards the top of our mat, or towards the front of our mat, bending into the right leg, walking our blocks over towards the right foot. We'll stay here for a couple of breaths. Ground down into both of your feet, including all 10 of your toes. Send your hips further back behind you and reach your heart forward. One more breath right here. Find center. Stay here in this lifted position. Or if you would like to, you can lower closer towards the ground, coming into more of a forward fold. So you might want to bring your blocks on the lowest height, and maybe you're able to drop down onto your forearms. Maybe you use your blocks on the middle heights. Find what works for you here. Two more breaths. Come back up onto your hands if you were lowered onto your forearms. Make your way now to the top of your mats. You can place your blocks off to the side. And once you arrive at the top of your mat, we're just going to step back into our tabletop position. Hands and knees, and just like we did earlier, we're going to shift the hips from side to side. Finding this lateral movement, perhaps noticing how this feels different than the first time we did it. Find center. We're now going to use our blanket for some extra padding or support for our knees. We'll come into frog pose, which can be somewhat of an intense hip opening posture, but we're just going to experiment with it and see how it feels for our hips and our knees today. So starting in a tabletop position, we're going to be facing the long edge of our mat so that our knees can be on the mat. So from our tabletop, we're now going to take each knee out to either side as much as feels good for you. And then once you have your knees out to a position that feels good, allow your shins to be parallel to one another. So the ankles are right behind your knees. And then once you have arrived in your frog pose, we're going to shift the weight forward and back. Shift the weight forward, coming into a bit of hip extension. Arms are straight. Shift the hips back. You can bend your arms, lowering down onto your forearms if you like. Shift forward, arms are straight. Hip extension. Shift back, bending the arms if you like, placing the forearms down on the mat. Shift forward, straight arms, hip extension. And then shift back. Forearms can be down on the mat. Continuing like this a few more times. From here, find center. So this was kind of our starting position. We're not shifted forward or back. We're going to lift the right foot up away from the ground, finding internal rotation for the hip. So just lifting it up to a position that feels good for you, lowering it back down. Lifting the left leg up, lowering it down. A couple more here. Good. Let's now walk our hands a little bit farther out in front, shifting your weight forward. We're going to do the same thing right here. Lift your right foot up, lower it down, lift your left foot up, lower it down, right foot, lower it, left foot. Good. Walk your hands in towards your knees. Take your time to come out of your frog pose, gradually, slowly bringing your knees towards one another. So bringing the knees towards the center of your mat, finding a tabletop position. Good. We can place the blanket off to the side. And we're now going to find a child's pose. We'll bring the big toes together, knees hip distance apart. If you're looking for more of a stretch or more sensation in your child's pose, you can bring the knees farther apart. We're going to lower the hips down to rest onto the heels, arms out in front, and you can lower your forehead down onto your mat. Watch your breath as it moves in and out of your body. Listen to your breath. What does your breath sound like? Feel your breath. How does your breath feel right here and right now? Two more breaths. breaths in our child's pose. Walk your hands in towards your knees, lift your chest up, come into a tabletop. Bring your hands farther out in front of you. We're in a plank pose with the knees down, so shoulders are over top of the wrists. Nice long line from the head back towards the knees. Lower all the way down to the ground. From here, the toes are untucked. Simply bring one hand over top of the other and rest your forehead on your stacked hands. You can leave your legs just as they are, or if you would like, you can bend your legs and take your feet from side to side. If you were moving your legs in that windshield wiper movement, bring your legs down onto your mats. Allow your entire body to rest here for just a couple more breaths. Once again, feel your breath. Listen to your breath. Bring your hands now underneath your shoulders. Press up into a tabletop position and then make your way into a seated position. Left leg out long. We'll cross the right leg over the left leg. The right leg will be bent, coming into a twist. Now from here, to target the hips a little bit more, let's bend this left leg as well. We'll bring the left foot towards the right hip. So coming into a bit of a different variation of our seated twist. Wrapping now the left arm around the right leg. Reach the right arm up towards the sky. And then bring the fingers down behind you onto your mats. Sit up nice and tall here. Notice if you can feel a stretch here for your right glute, your right hips. Maybe the IT band. Notice how your spine feels in this twist. 2 more breaths. Release. Extend your left leg long. Extend your right leg long as well. So both legs are extended straight. We're now going to cross the left leg over the right leg. And we'll bend the right leg as well, bringing the heel in towards the left hip. So finding a bit of a stretch here for the left hip, the left glutes, maybe into the IT band as well. Right arm wraps around the left leg. And then we can sweep the left arm up, bring the fingers down to tent up onto the mat behind you. So the palm is lifted here, you're just onto tented fingers. And that helps to keep your spine nice and extended, sitting up tall here in your twist. Notice how this twist feels on the second side. And continue to watch and observe your breath. release. And we'll meet with both legs bent in front of us, feet planted down on the mat, hands behind us. And we'll just take the legs from side to side, once again finding this windshield wiper motion. You can bring your feet to the edges of your mat if you prefer, or you can leave your feet hip distance apart. As you bring your knees towards the right side, you can allow your left hip to lift up. As you bring your knees to the left side, you can allow your right hip to lift up. Excellent. Let's find center, planting the feet down, lower all the way down onto your back. Bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a hug here, give yourself a squeeze. And then release your legs long onto your mat. Come into your Shavasana. Option to do Shavasana with your legs bent. You can have your arms next to your body on the ground. Or you can have one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. You also have the option to do this posture by lying on your belly or on your side. Come to a position where you can rest. Taking this time to rest so that we can integrate all of the wonderful work that we did in our practice today. Allow your breath to simply flow, moving in a natural, easy, effortless way. When your mind wanders off to other places and other things, I encourage you to bring your focus back to your breath. Each inhale and each exhale. We can use the breath as a tool to stay present throughout our entire practice. Take your time to rest here, and my voice will guide you back in just a little bit. Bring your awareness to your body resting here on your mats. Become aware of how you are feeling. Bring some movement now into your body, finding any kind of movement that you would like. Wiggling fingers and toes, maybe bringing the head from side to side, maybe bending the legs, moving the knees from side to side in a windshield wipe motion. Take all the time that you would like to make your way onto one side. Once you are there on your side, take one last moment to notice how you are feeling. How are your hips feeling? How are your legs feeling? Your knees, your feet? How is your spine feeling? Is there anything else that you can notice right here and right now? Press yourself up once you feel ready, coming into a comfortable seated position where we will close class together. Thank you so much for being here. I really do hope you enjoyed this yoga practice. I hope your hips and your lower body are feeling good. If you did enjoy this class, be sure to hit that red subscribe button. This way you won't miss out on any of my other classes I will be sharing on my channel. And feel free also to share this video or my channel with a friend, family, or on social media. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a lovely day. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste.